Hello. Before we get started on this week's bits and bobs we've done on the car, I just wanted to take a minute to have a look back and sort of see where we came from. In the past I've said it's good to get those senses of progression, so when you're looking at the same bits of car every day, it can get a bit soul destroying sometimes. You don't feel like you're getting anywhere, you're always looking at the same thing. Every time I start a new video, it's still the same thing, same part of the car. So it's nice to look back retrospectively sometimes, back to where you started, and then sort of feel that actually your work hasn't been in vain. So we'll have a quick, before we get into this, we'll have a quick look back and see where we started back in February when I picked the car up, and then compare it to kind of where some of the parts are now. Yeah, and just sort of get a sense of how far we've come. Also, we've almost at 200 subscribers now. Now, as I've said before, this is, you know, in YouTube numerical significance, it's nothing. You know, 200 people is nothing, but to me, it's huge. That's a really big thing. You know, people are watching the videos, liking, commenting, and subscribing to watch future videos, and that does mean a lot to me. So, if you're one of those people, thank you very much. I do appreciate it, I genuinely do. I'm never going to be one of those people to say, give it a thumbs up, like it, share it, subscribe, hit the bell. I can't stand all that stuff. If you like it, you'll carry on watching, and if you don't, you won't. So I'll never do that. But the fact we're almost at 200, that's really cool. You know, and like I say, hopefully at some point it's entertaining, and other people might find it useful. And if you do, then we're doing something right. So anyway, let's have a quick look back and see where we started.
So this is the day we had it delivered. I remember it all too well. We went to pick it up. It was bloody miles away. It was chucking it down with rain. It was in bits in a barn, covered in boxes, and I thought, oh God. By this point I'd already committed to buy it, and I thought, oh man, what have I done? Look at it. It's an absolute sorry state. It didn't fill me full of confidence. But I thought, you know, at least the engine's okay. The guy said the engine's okay. Yeah, this was the inside of the engine. You can see there, inside the pistons, it's absolutely horrific. Rust on the bores. I mean, most people would have just scrapped it at this point. They would have just slung it out the door. But I persevered, stripped it all down, cleaned the head out, relapped all the valves, polished out the cylinders by hand, freshly oiled, and as you can see there, turning on the ratchet, it's now turning over very nice. The dashboard, as you can see, is in a sorry state. It's mouldy, all the lacquer is clouded and peeling off, all the instruments have gone cloudy, everything's damp. Oh, it's horrific. And now after restoring it, redoing all the instruments, vinyl wrapping the dash, cleaning all the leather back up again, it's now looking, I wouldn't say good as new, but it looks pretty good in my opinion. And then of course there's the chassis. The chassis the owner told me was good to go because he's been around and done all the welding that needs to be done on it, and that's one big job for me not to do. Yeah, as you can see, it's absolutely horrific. It's gone all along the inside edge, and about half of the bottom has gone as well. That panel you can see hanging off there is one of the panels he's put in, which I've just pulled off with a screwdriver. It wasn't done well at all. And then after a week of welding this damn thing, cutting out rust and cutting replacement panels, finally getting the chassis to a point where all the bad metal's gone, all been replaced with good metal. So there we go. It may not look like we've always done a lot of work, but you know, it's there. I know it's been done, so I'm happy so far. Anyway, on with this week's update.
I'm done now. I'm going to try and get a bit done the next couple of days, but I don't have much to show. So I have finished the inside. So that footwell is now done. I've been through, checked it over, buzzed it back, cleaned it off, and that's had a lick of paint as well now. So now all the inside of the shell, both footwells, both floors, and the back is now done. I'll actually clean it off one day, get all my shit off it so you can see it properly. But the inside is now done. So that's a small victory. Also, I've started mounting the body down. Now I bought a body mount bolt kit off eBay, which said it was for a Mark IV 1500 Spit. However, some of the bolts don't fit. So luckily I had a few bolts left over from doing it, and I had to sort of cobble it together a little bit. So you've got your 2 bolts back here, one there and one there. The bolts I had in the kit didn't fit there. Next to is this one here and this one here. Again, the ones I had in the kit didn't fit. Then I had this one here and this one here, and as you can guess, or as you can probably tell by the painted bolt heads, the ones I had in the kit didn't fit. Then you get 2 here on the front cross member. These ones do fit, thank God I can use something from it. And 2 on that side. And then you've got 2 left. You've got 1 in the corner underneath, you can't see it, but it's underneath the throttle pedal. You can just see the washer there for it. That goes all the way through this front cross member. Where is it? Goes all the way through, which fits. And then you have the last one, which I can't get to fit, which is this one here. You can probably just see the thread in the bottom, or you might not be able to see it, in the bottom right hand corner there. You can just see that thread. If I zoom in a little bit, you might be able to see it. So no matter what I do, I cannot get that to line up. And the other side is the same. So I'm not really sure what to do with that. I may just leave it off, because at the end of the day you've got all those bolts I've just shown, plus the one in the corner here that goes all the way down through that outrigger and has a nut on the bottom. So to be honest, it probably doesn't actually need that one. It doesn't need 2 side by side like that, but you know, or I might just try and make it fit. What I might do is just grind this hole out a little bit bigger so it's an oval, and then drop the bolt down through, because once it pinches into the thread down there, it's not going to go anywhere. In fact, I think that's what I will do. Get a milling bit on the drill or on the Dremel and just grind it back a little bit. So, you know, that's good, but it's also a bit of a ball ache. Trying to get it all to fit was a nightmare, trying to get those bolts in. Of course, from where the previous owner had been painting the chassis, all the threads were full of paint. So trying to get those bolts sunk was an absolute bloody nightmare. And one thing we did notice when we were mounting the body is that it's not actually perfectly straight. Now if you look at the top of the rear leaf spring there, if I sort of line the camera up so it's central, which is about there, you can see there's a bigger gap on the right. If I move the camera it becomes less obvious, but when you look at it in the flesh you can clearly see that there is a bigger gap on the right than there is on the left. Not by much, just by a little bit, but still enough to make you sort of go, well, how's that? I mean, you know, there's bolts either side of it, so as long as those bolts are in, it's not like there's any adjustment in any of these bolts. You know, they're either in or out. So I can't just move the body across one way or the other, but it doesn't work like that. So a bit of a pass on that one. It may just be that the body isn't perfectly straight. And, you know, as long as the chassis is straight and the wheels are straight, it doesn't really matter. It might just look a bit weird. The other thing we noticed is that it's going to be quite hard to show you here due to how close it is to the wall. In fact, I may not be able to show you at all. But you can, well, you probably can't even see it. You can just see the tyre poking out of the side of the arch down there. It's probably too dark to show you. But you can see the tyre poking out the side of the arch, only by a tiny, tiny little bit. But when we come to this side, the tyre doesn't poke out of the arch at all. On the contrary, the tyre is actually inside the arch. So this further led to me thinking, oh god, the body's not straight, what a nightmare. Then I thought about the arches. So this is obviously a replacement arch, hence why it's got red oxide on it. Now I've measured them, and this arch is 35mm from the crease to the edge, and the other arch is 20mm from the crease to the edge. So I don't quite know what's happened there. I think whoever's put the replacement arch on it's probably had a replacement on this side and it's got the original arch on that side, and I'm guessing on the replacement they put it over the top of the original arch. I don't know. When I start cutting this back I'll know a bit more. I also need to get up on the ramps. So that's one more thing to sort of, not to worry about, but just to be aware of. I've got, you know, more wheels showing on the left side than I do on the right, which is a bit of a pain. So I'm not sure what to do with that one for the moment. What I really need to do now is get it up on the ramps
so I can get underneath it and attach the handbrake cable, because of course I bought myself a shiny new front handbrake cable because the original one was missing, and it turns out the original one wasn't missing. It's actually attached to the body. There's a little bracket underneath and it's hanging off it. We noticed it when we were trying to get the bolts in. Stuck my hand up underneath and I could feel a braided cable with a spring on it. And I thought, why the hell has that brake cable got a spring on it? Turns out what I was feeling was the front section of the front handbrake cable. So I bought that one needlessly. So I'll get the old one out, put the new one in, and obviously we need to tidy up the underside of where we've welded those patches in, because they're going to have a lip on the outside. So I need to make sure that lip is tapped down nice and squarely, and the whole thing is undersealed so it looks nice and tidy underneath. Obviously you don't want any lips sticking out or anything like that. Yeah. So next job is to try and get this damn thing in the air on top of these ramps. I wonder if I can push it up on the ramps, because even with the trolley jack with a brick on it under there, under the cross member, I can't get it high enough to get it on top of these ramps. And the angle is slightly wrong. The higher you get it, the more the jack starts to pivot, or the brick starts to pivot, and it just doesn't feel safe. Even though it can only fall back down to the floor again, it just doesn't feel safe, and that little alarm in your head that goes, this isn't right, starts ringing. So I always listen to that little alarm because it talks sense. So I end up putting it back down again. So what I may do is open the doors, roll it out, wait for the missus to come home. She's a bit butch. I say butch, she goes to the gym and stuff. And then I wonder if we can get enough speed pushing it backwards to get it back up on the ramps, so I can get underneath it, do the underseal, sort the handbrake out, and those bits. We'll see. Oh, also, I managed to get to turn on the key as well, so I'm particularly happy with that. So I got myself a new starter solenoid. Turns out, of course, there was nothing wrong with the old one. What was wrong was my earth. There wasn't a very good earth from the starter to the chassis or to the body, or which one it was. So I ended up running a jumper cable from the negative on the starter, where you can see that braided cable, back to the battery, and it did work. Before that it was just clunking, giving me a clicking noise. So what I've done now is just put that little braided cable in there, between that bolt on the starter housing and going to this little lip here on the chassis, which probably has another use, which I'll find out later on. And now it will turn on the key. He says confidently. It did the other day. I haven't tried it for a few days. So let's see if it works. So the ignition on these is really weird. You turn the key back towards you rather than turning it away from you, which is completely different to every other car I've ever had. But there we go. So first of all, make sure it's in neutral, because the prop shaft is connected, and hopefully it turns. Hooray! There's no fuel in it. Fuel tank isn't attached yet, but it does turn the key, so that's good news. That can only be good, right? Obviously I don't want to put the fuel tank on until I got the body mount bolts snagged down, because, you know, there's bolts there and the fuel tank goes there, so, you know, I don't want to do all that and then find out to take it out again. So I suppose the next job will be, well, the next big job is going to be fuel tank back in, attach the fuel lines, and also order a load of brake line and start getting my master cylinders wired back in. So the flexi hoses on them, these are all good. Obviously I've cleaned out the master cylinder so they work properly. I've cleaned the slave cylinder for the clutch, that's good. And I've taken apart the brake calipers, cleaned them, make sure the piston's moved, and given them a good grease so the calipers will move okay. And on the rear I've put new shoes on them and all the mounting kits. So all the brakes should be good. There's plenty of life. Oh, there's new pads on the front as well. The discs are absolutely fine. There's loads of life in those discs. So they've got new pads on them as well. Flexi hoses are good. So I'm just going to replace all the copper brake lines from front to back. Again, you may as well. And wire in the cylinders. And then I can obviously start to test the brakes and start to test the gearbox when the clutch master cylinder is back on. And with the fuel line attached, hopefully I can then get it idling and running properly. So I can then start to play with the setup on the carbs and get them running okay. I do need to get a new choke cable. I killed the old one. But yeah, once it's running and I know it's selecting gears, moving forwards and backwards and starting and stopping okay, that's a huge thing, isn't it? Because then you've kind of got a car. Whilst it may be an incomplete car, it is a car nonetheless. And you know that when you finish doing all the panel work and all the body work and put it all back together again, and all your lights and all that good stuff, you're actually going to have a driving car. And that's super exciting. Okay, so now we've got the car up on the ramps.
I can actually get underneath, and where I've welded in those replacement patches in the floors, I can get in and actually clean up and fill and make the bottoms of them look tidy. You know, I don't want bare metal down there, I don't want any edges down there, so we'll tap it all down flat, we'll fill it, and then we'll underseal the whole thing. How did I get the car up on the ramps, you ask? I pushed it quite quickly. I rolled it as far forward as it would go to the door, grabbed hold of the back, and then ran backwards with it. Took me a few goes, but eventually I managed to get up on the ramps. So she's on the ramps now, blocks on the front, so she ain't going anywhere. So now we can get and have a look at the underside. Bear with me. Okay, so this is the passenger side. As you can see, it's got that replacement piece of steel going all the way across the floor, which is nice. See if I can get you down there a bit better. So that's a nice looking floor. Just needs a bit more underseal where it's stored outside. Obviously it got scraped on the ground a little bit. So we'll take care of all that. So nice chassis rails as well, all done. And then this is the driver's side. Apologies, it's a little bit dark. It's very difficult to get on camera. So most of the patches I put in from the top. However, the big one in the middle I put in from the bottom, which is this one here. So as you can see, I just need to go around, tap the edges of that down, and then fill it and get it all undersealed. But being underneath, I can do a few other jobs so I can get the exhaust connected up properly. I've got a makeshift exhaust hanger there, which is just one I've made out of a bit of old steel, bent it to the right shape, put a rubber strap on the inside of it, and that's bolted into the gearbox mount. There'll be another one on the back behind me, up underneath the boot as well. And I've got some proper exhaust clamps on the way so I can get it all clamped in together. I've also put the handbrake cable through as well. As I said before, foolishly I bought one thinking it was missing it, and it was up there the whole damn time. Didn't realise it was attached to this little swinging arm up here. I thought it would just be loose, but it's not, it's there. So that handbrake cable is now back in. Let me just manoeuvre myself a little bit. Got a little bit of oil on there, which looks like it might be coming from the diff. Tiny bit of oil. Just there on the corner. Oh no, it's nice. WD-40. I sprayed the whole thing in WD-40 yesterday. That's why. Let me give it a quick sniff. Yes, WD. Okay, panic over. So yes, so we put the that clevis pin back in for the handbrake adjuster, or for the handbrake for the rear shoes. So that's all bolted in now, and that's all connected up to the top. It feels nice and tight up at the top when you pull the handbrake on. Obviously I'll need to get the car off the ramp to actually test to make sure it is working properly, but I'm pretty sure it will be. So yeah, tied up a few jobs on the underside now. Oh, also I suppose I need to do those brake lines, don't I? Now the brake line that's actually here, sorry, I'm trying to use my mobile phone as a torch in one hand and camera in the other. The brake line that's actually here is actually pretty good. But I'm sort of the opinion that, you know, you may as well change them all at the same time. I'm going to do all the brake lines down to the front anyway, so we may as well do this one as well. So where does this come back to? This will come back to a junction back here somewhere. Can't see anything at all for a minute. Bear with. Okay, so there's the rear brake line junction. So it comes in from the left hand side of that, and then the top one comes up to this left hand wheel, and the one on the right goes across to the right hand side wheel. So I may as well take that apart, give that junction a good clean, take the, I don't know what they're called, the brake line attachments, ferrules is it? Take them out, get a new brake line, new ferrules, and then run it all in. The flexi hoses at the back here are all good. So no dramas with those, they can stay on. It's just literally the solid brake lines I need to get. I believe they're 3/16 of an inch. I've measured them with a tape measure as best I can. I believe they're 3/16. And then obviously that runs all the way down the car.
Goes down to the front. You can see where the brake line is down there, just going up under that cross member. I'm guessing that's meant to go through, well, it has to go through one of those holes in the cross member and then through into the engine bay and then to the front junction and then up into the master cylinder. So I suppose it makes sense to pull all these brake lines off while I'm here. Do that. Handbrake's done. Under seal. Oh, I need to do these two. I'm not sure what they're called. These two strengthening struts. I've put this one on yesterday. I just need to find another one of these bolts because I've only got one, which is rather annoying. Okay, so that's all those patches now filled. Where I put that nice long angle patch up there before. That's my main patch. And a smaller patch here in the corner. Am I looking at the right thing? Hard to see when you're upside down in a car. In the corner there. Yeah. So again, I know you never want to see filler on the underside of a car, but you know, the fact is everywhere you see filler on this car is where it's got a steel plate above it. So, you know, I'm not too worried. The filler's just purely there to stop water ingress and give me a nice smooth surface I can add the underseal onto. Looking pretty groovy. Yeah. Nice arty shot right down the middle. Yeah, cool. You know when you're undoing a bolt and it feels really tight and you think, if this spanner slips, I'm going to crunch my hand into, yeah, ow. Right, that's the main brake line out. So I just want to get to this T-piece here. This sits by the back wheels. This does the left hand side wheel. This edge does the right hand side wheel. And then this long one goes all the way to the front. So we're going to take it apart there at that junction. We'll reuse those if we can, clean them up. I don't know, and I say that actually, it's not really worth reusing them, is it, to be honest? I'll buy some brake line, I think you get a pack of male and female connectors in there with it, so yeah, all that is a male and female connector. So we may as well just trash that. But obviously we want to keep these little the little junction boxes. Here's the other one I've done. Clean that one up nicely, blown it all out, make sure that's good to go. Again, I'm sure you can buy these for a couple of quid, but you know, what's the point in trashing them if you can reuse them? So yeah. So that's our first one, that's our second one. In fact, they're probably almost identical, aren't they? Yeah, pretty much identical. Take it out, clean it. What I probably should have done is kept the old brake line so I could measure the new ones against it to follow the same curvature, but I forgot. And I've just sort of slung them in a bag down there. Ripped them apart and slung them in a bag. So that's my bad. I probably should have kept them. But there we go. We'll keep the little panel clips. They'll get reused. And then we'll just rebend them into shape when they get here. Can't be that hard, can it? Surely. You're just bending copper pipe. Right, let's get this one out and get it clean. There we go, and freshly polished up on the wire wheel. Good as new. Just need to clean it out now because I don't know how well you can see. But down inside, I'll probably try and, sort of get it in the light. You probably can't see, but there's bits in there. Now those bits were in there. That's a slightly better angle. Those bits were in there before I started buzzing and grinding. So, you know, that could just be. I mean, it could just be rust from where I've unscrewed it because they were pretty tough to get out. I had to use mole grips to get the brake fails out, or that could be crap that's collected in the brake lines over time. And it's just collected in that junction, and obviously you don't want that. You want your brake lines to be absolutely crystal clear at all times. Obviously, it's your brakes. So, yeah, we'll give that a good blast out now, some WD, clean it out, bit of high pressure air, and then my little My little brake parts are good to go. As soon as I get my brake lines in, we can start to get all this stuff rerouted back out of the car. Because, you know, like I say, the brake line itself looked okay, but, you know, there is a lot of paint on it where it's been painted and repainted over the years. There are a few corrosion spots on it, and, you know, is it worth trusting it? It's not, is it? What's the point? What's the point in redoing all the other car, the rest of the car, and then going, well, the brake lines look alright, I'll leave them on. For all I know, there's holes in them. For all I know, they're corroded to shit. It doesn't look very nice at that end. So, yeah. While you're at it, rip them off. Brake line's cheap. And we'll have a bit of fun, put it in, and learn something new.